So the new Big 12, definitely some better representation. You'd have to take out Oklahoma as far as your total goes. But Baylor, Oklahoma State, and then those three, or in its current version, OU, Baylor, and Oklahoma State. So your thoughts, Baylor, pretty much the unanimous number 10 for both coaches and voters out there in the AP poll and coaches poll.
Yeah, and Texas is at 27. Technically, they have 164 votes, so they're right on the outside. Kansas State has 14 votes as well, so they're kind of in the mix to be ranked. Yeah, as far as Oklahoma and Baylor, I'm fine with it. I still, and I've seen a lot of tweets about this and everything, but I still feel like Baylor should be ranked ahead of Oklahoma. I know Oklahoma's going to be good this year, and I understand why.
Watch out, Kendall.
Yeah. To me, I feel like even if Oklahoma's a top 10 team, which I think they are going to be, I don't see why they're ranked ahead of Baylor at this time. Baylor just won the Big 12 last year. Baylor beat Oklahoma. Oklahoma has a coaching change, new quarterback, a lot of new faces, and yet they're ranked ahead of Baylor. A little surprising to me, but again, we're nitpicking here. It's 9 versus 10. So Baylor's inside the top 10. It's a great spot for them. I think Oklahoma State deserves their top 12 ranking as well. They're going to be really good. And like I've talked about kind of all summer, all spring, I think these are going to be the three best teams in the Big 12, and I think they're going to separate themselves pretty quickly.
Yeah, it should be a fascinating race for the Big 12 because there is so much unknown going into this year and so many people that are kind of banking on big bets one way or the other. Like, there are Oklahoma fans that are just dug in that they are not going to skip a beat with Brent Venables, and I'm sitting here as a lifelong OU fan going, I could definitely see them skipping a beat with this team. And so I know that our own Kendall Couts had to fight some of those battles online with OU fans, and
but that's because Kendall was saying they're going, what, like 6-6?
Well, he's a little more extreme on the downside of downslope of negativity, but I could definitely see them taking a step back. I could see Texas going either way, especially after the most recent injury news for them. I mean, those weren't like cornerstones, but you really can't. I mean, like cornerstones. I mean, they're not Bijan or Ewers or Worthy, but I know they're close. I'm saying like a pillar. And Anglau, probably their best O lineman, but that's like the best roll of toilet paper.
Right. It's going to force them to have to play a freshman probably, but the bigger one is Nair. Just because Nair, there was talk about him being an NFL guy.
I was one of those guys, because I saw him at Wyoming. He's a really great player, and I think that's a significant loss for them. And I think it's more significant than a Jai Hall, and you count that as well, though, and that's another guy that you brought in to bolster their receivers. So anyways, Texas has some questions, and I could see them going 7-6, as well as I could see them going 10-2. I mean, I think it's capable of swinging wildly one way or the other, and that's kind of the story of every team in this league. Could be a bowl team, could be a non-bowl team for a lot of these, and so I just think it's been fun to kind of watch how the opinions for each one is sort of roller coastered depending on what the latest news is. But I don't know that anyone's got a terrific grip on what this actually is going to look like. I mean, we all think, and we all kind of have the same teams in mind, but there are a lot of wild cards out there for every single group that we're talking about, including the Bears. I mean, they could, there was a question we had of who could you see going from, top 10 to like unranked, and you look at the top 10 and Baylor's a good candidate. I mean, if things don't go exactly the way that they want. So I'm excited to see this finally shake out here pretty soon.
Yeah, for me, I think Oklahoma has questions, so there's a little bit of, I think you have more question marks about them in my eyes. But Baylor and Oklahoma State, I feel like they're safe as far as like, I'm sitting here and I'm going, they're going to win at least 8 games. Like, for me, they would have to suffer so many injuries to not hit that mark. Oklahoma State, for instance, I just think this is a crazy stat. They've won at least 8 games in all but 2 years since 2008. They're going to win 8 games. Like, that's just what's going to happen. Mike Gundy has done that every single year. 7 seasons during that stretch, they've won 10 games. So I think they're the ones that are probably the safest. Like, lock them in. They're going to win at least 8 games, and they have a ceiling to win kind of what they did last year, win 11 games. But I think Baylor's kind of in that same boat. I don't think you roll out in the Big 12 with 2 units that are ranked, according to On3 at least, inside the top 3 offensive line and defensive line, and don't find a way to win at least 8 games. I just don't see that happening. There aren't many other schools that can say that. Actually, there aren't any schools that can say that this year. And I just think that's a huge factor that some people are kind of missing.
Yeah, I mean, I'll take it or leave it as far as some rankings go, but I understand why they are strong in the eyes of those grading the offensive lines. But like you said, barring injuries, that's the thing we don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the thing I want to. That's what I'm talking about. Is I want to see, like, okay, we've talked about it on paper. Everybody at their best looks great here and there. Okay, now let's roll the football out and let's see, like, who does stay healthy, who doesn't. I want to see results at this point and see where the ceiling is. Is it 8 wins? Is it 10 wins? Is it going undefeated and getting the playoffs? We've seen every scenario looked at and every, if this happens or that happens, okay, now let's go. Let's go. And here we are. We're a couple weeks away and we can finally see that.
Well, in a week and a half, you're going to have your prediction ready.
I've got my prediction ready. I'm ready right now to do it.
You don't even want to wait for 4
I already said 8-4 is what I'm going with. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, that might go to 9-3, but I'm not going beyond that.
Okay.
Do you have yours?
No, I'm going to wait.
Okay.
I'll wait till our show in a couple weeks. I want to see some more things unfold before I go all in one way or another. But it'll be interesting regardless. It's going to be very interesting. We're both on the over, though. I can say that much. The over-under is 7.5 right now. Baylor's going to cover that.
I think they'll cover that. But, I mean, that's what I'm saying, too, is I think we're kind of in the same wavelength as far as everybody expects them to be at a certain point. But, like, that's my question is, okay, now let's see. How far beyond that can they go? Mm-hmm. Is this a 10-win team or is this really an 8-4 team? And I'm just excited to actually see that and see why that happened or why that didn't happen. And, then what the next wave of, interesting storylines are.